Are you already registered?
Hello and welcome to our format Nature Medicine. Nice to have you back with us. I have an exciting interview partner today. Alexandra Kotthaus is with me again. And today I'm going to talk to her about how to get healthy and old. I think that's the desired goal of every man. Unfortunately, not many achieve it. And today we're going to see what we can do and how it would be possible to achieve this, to get healthy and old. We'll start the interview right away. Stay tuned. Hello, dear Alexandra. I warmly welcome you.
Hello, Alexandra.
Same name as always. You're the head physician at the Biomed Center Sonnenberg in Schwielbrunn. Head physician for general medicine, psychotherapy and psychiatry. That's right. And today we have an exciting topic that actually concerns each of us, which accompanies us in the conversation. How do I get healthy and old? Or how can I get healthy and old? Most of the time we see the other example, that diseases multiply in old age. And you either have a long infirmity until death or you eventually die from an illness. Is that possible? Is it possible that we get healthy and old or die healthy?
I hope so. I've had the experience that there are people who die in peace and without suffering. But you're right, and that's less and less. Those who fight with infirmity, with illness, with pain, that's getting more and more. And that's what younger people are hearing. And that's why more and more people say, no, I don't want to get that old. And I don't mind doing something for my health. Then I'd rather have a blast and let myself feel good, because I don't want to get old anyway. I know that enough. Yes, that's true. But there are several mistakes there. That means, if I don't live like I'm 100, or we're probably designed to get much older than 100, if I don't live like that at all, then I don't need to imagine that I'm going to die healthy. Because those who don't do that say, no, if I don't have the pleasure, then I think, do you really know what pleasure is? If I don't have the pleasure, which is so important to me, then I'll die earlier. But you don't die earlier, you die worse. And if you want to die healthy and don't do anything for it, then it only works if you get run over by a car. Or if you have another accident. Or stabbed, I don't know. But then you have such an end of life. And statistically speaking, most people don't, thank God. But that's the mistake in thinking. I don't want to get old and I don't want to suffer. And that's why I don't want to get old. That's why I don't do anything to get old. And the calculation definitely doesn't add up. And actually, it's a shame that fewer and fewer people really want to get old. Because that means, one thing is the death, or the infirmity before that, what is feared. And people are afraid of this old being. And the other thing is, what happens to me more and more often, people are afraid, if the world continues to develop like this, do I still want that at all? Do I still want that at all? And I think we all have to change our mindset. I once read, most of the 100-year-olds have already decided as a child to become 100.
Oh, really?
Yes, so it's also a decision to a certain extent. And then you shouldn't be completely naive. But you should maybe also keep in mind, especially nowadays, do I have to do something for it? And at the moment, I hope very much that it is possible to become 100. Let's put it this way, I thought about it, 100. I also had a short phase, where I thought, if I survive my children, could I stand it? And I mean, now they are through puberty, and I see very good trends in them. Let's see that I don't survive it. But for a while I also thought, so, they are so young. They are young adults, but it is still a bit far away for them. And of course they know that I want to get that old. But that they now say for sure, I have the motivation to get just as old, that's just a long way off. And then I thought to myself, okay, I want to have grandchildren. My plan is, I'll be a great-great-grandmother. And even if I have to survive my children, I still should have grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and great-great-grandchildren to take care of. That's something that prolongs life. If there are grandparents and they are a bit busy with childcare. Besides, I don't think it will be boring for me, that's not in my life plan anyway. And so, that does play a certain role in getting healthy and old, that you make that decision, and that it is a bearing decision. I also have patients. I have to say, I do talk to them every now and then. Do they want to live, or do they not want to die? Yes, that's a difference. There are simply people who don't want to die, but they don't do anything to make them live longer. And then you sometimes have to say, hey, I want to live, and do I have an unconditional yes to this decision? Because that has consequences. Maybe then I just have one glass of wine at a party, and not 5 or so. These are things that contribute to that. Or you can't overdo it. Or then, that's also what I notice with me, also with other people who are similar. The compass, the inner compass, is being converted to good things more and more. And then other people come and tell me about something and I think, I wouldn't have come up with the idea to do, or eat something like that. That's beyond my point of view. That's one part of it. Of course, nutrition and detoxification play a massive role. If you look at these blue zones, the hot spots of the 100-year-olds, then they actually come to the conclusion that nutrition is the main thing. And not even that they are socially involved. On average, they are also socially involved. But if you then try to calculate these factors, then nutrition is an enormously important part of the fact that they are 100 years old. Then I watched a documentary the other day. A friend sent me the link. And then I thought, maybe they live out of habit for a long time. Yes, that's something that a lot of people have in common. They often have, every day is the same. You have breakfast, you go into the village. It's mostly a village. Then you are brought to the latest newsstand. Maybe you read a little newspaper, exchange ideas, maybe drink a sip of alcohol, buy a few things, then go home again, prepare your meal, visit the children or something. And actually every day is the same. Habits can carry. They can make the next day the same and the next day the same. Then you do it for a few years, because they are already 100 or 106 years old. And then you have done it like that for the last 10 years. And then you do it. So it's a thought process that I have. Because rhythm carries, habits carry. You can also do it out of habit. But then I think, if I look at it and continue to follow my theory, maybe I won't be 100. Because my life is so charged with adrenaline. I think I'm a little bit like that. I'm afraid that I have to go to new places again and do something here and there. Somehow I'm not programmed to be bored at all. I told my husband when we met, by the way, my life is never boring. He now knows what I meant. But these are very different things. And then you just have to say what hinders us the most besides our mindset, and how we experience the world, and what negative image may also be intentionally drawn in the media. Also in alternative media, because I sometimes get choked and think, now let's not exaggerate too much. It is of course that we really have to treat ourselves well and have to create a good environment for them to achieve that we have to detoxify them. We are surrounded by it. We see it in babies and teenagers, and in the snow on Mount Everest. And that means we don't have to pretend anything. It is also in each of us. And the one who gets the most stuff out again, he also has good chances to live as long and healthy because of the other factors. But I have decided to do an upgrade. I say 100 is a little bit too low for me, then I would almost be at half time. I thought, no, life so far has gone too fast. Presumably, I will also feel it faster and faster. So I aim for 120. That's what I thought. I am not naive. I don't think, I have to live like this and that and then it will work. I don't mean that. But I live as if it could work. Because when I get that old, I don't lie around, but have a little more of life.
A completely good approach. And I mean, the spirit reigns over matter.
Yes, but you have to train that. Yes, it is easier said than done. And you really have to think about your not only, it is not enough, oh, I have a positive attitude. Your boycott programs. Many people have those running, the boycott programs for their own lives. So that is, I don't know, sometimes as a psychiatrist I think, how do I teach you that you are currently sowing with violence on the branch you are sitting on? Or that you talk all your missteps that are now life-shortening nice? Or label it with pleasure, or treating yourself. You can really come back to real pleasure. And real pleasure is certainly not organic chocolate where children's work and blood sticks to it and sugar is in it and bad fats are in it. I think we have to relabel what real pleasure is.
Would you like to go into that? Can you give some examples of real pleasure?
Maybe real pleasure is something that neither harms other people nor ourselves. And even if I do not promote dairy products, but if I now know that this cheese was made by hand from only 5 cows standing on a high alpine, without animal torture, and maybe with cheese it is difficult, without the calf being taken away, and then it is something that has a certain value and a certain price, because the yield is not so high so that the farmer can live.
Keine Zusatznahrung bekommen, sondern das, was ihm zusteht, ja. Und dann ist es was vielleicht auch einen gewissen Wert hat und auch einen gewissen Preis hat, weil die Ausbeute natürlich nicht so hoch ist, damit der Bauer leben kann.
And if I know to appreciate that, then it is pleasure more than if I buy a piece of cheese from the supermarket, or if it is at least a fair-traded organic cocoa with coconut sugar in raw food quality, if it has to be chocolate.
Vielleicht kannst du auch einfach mal ein Stück
Exotic fruit, we do not have to pretend that most of us would find exotic fruit tastier than the local, because we simply live more north than our origin. And that also comes with the 100-year-olds, not only the pace of life, they all live more south. Of course, there is also in Norway someone who lives 100 and in Siberia, there are also a few, but the real hotspots are in the south. And they have a different palette of fruits and vegetables that also make a big difference. And if the ingredients, even if I do not recommend to eat them here, just really come from the field from the animal next door, then it is a completely different quality than if I buy it in the supermarket. But I think pleasure can only be for me as an awakened or enlightened person, where I do not harm myself or other people or the environment. That's what I would say.
Definitely. Now the question is, I just find it very difficult, at least when it comes to the products that you can find in the market. Can I trust all of them, even if I try to understand where they come from?
No, of course not. But I always say it like this: do you know, if it says organic, there is often organic in it than if it does not say it. I must not imagine that the world is perfect. Not the organic scene as well. But I definitely do something better for me and the environment when there are few pesticides, and of course I am aware that in organic cultivation there are huge differences in quality. But excuse me, I probably have a great clinic to run, and I don't have a green thumb at all. I have to go shopping for my vegetables. I don't have the time and not the skills. So in that case, I am like that. Does my man when it comes to plants? I have a secretary, Alex. You have to water the flowers. Oh, okay. That's what I don't like, even if I know a lot about herbs. Yes, I know. And then there are other people who have the skills for it. And then it's part of the job. And I make them healthy and they grow plants. And I don't pretend that I'm not able to do that at all. Even when I go shopping in a supermarket, and we live in a rural area, you get a better selection of organic products. If the organic supermarket is even still open, then I come from work. But I make sure that I get the best available in my environment.
Yes, definitely. We have already talked about the mindset. It's a decision when I want to get older that I should make the decision. And now we are at enjoyment. What other factors can I influence?
Detox, liver, intestinal condition. Actually, that's it. They say oxidative stress makes you age faster. But where does that come from? Of course, also through toxins. And we have plenty of them in our environment, and they also have to go out. And you have to look what kind of person you are. Are you someone who gets the out well? He can cope with just taking a cure every now and then. Or are you someone who detoxes worse? Maybe you do a cure, but you have to have a baseline of food supplements or nutritional quality. And maybe other people can make an exception. And there are also different possibilities. You can sweat out a lot if you ask what everyone can do and go to the sauna or the infrared sauna. We also offer full-body hypothermia. The irotherm is also one of the most effective detoxification measures. Not for everyone it's swallowing supplements or nutrition. So we have to put more and more, so that it works well.
Do I get anything out with these methods you mentioned?
You cannot really test it. I can do provocation test, but what's really in the tissue? I cannot take organ samples every time. I have a reference points. On one side there are lab analysis, but on the other hand, a dark field also gives me information about the environment. It sometimes gives me information through denatured hemoglobin, so-called target cells, maybe even information about heavy metals in the game. But these are all hints. But there is no completely exact information, which is now very certain and definitively detoxified. We don't have to pretend that. And I keep hearing patients say, I did a very intensive detoxification therapy in 2016, and then I did a chelat therapy, and then I did a test at the end. Everything was clean. And now I got this and that. Yes, I would say that is unfortunately a bit naive. You are 7, 8. How many do we have now? 8, 7 years on. And then you had enough opportunity to collect a lot again. We collect something every day, and we just have to get more out of it every day than we collect. So there are good methods, but there is no such thing as 100%. But what we can do is, of course, we can see for ourselves. We can press on ourselves and look. Are we leaving fingerprints? Or many have it on their backs. Then your partner has to press. Press me, do I have fingerprints here? Am I overacidified? These are also signs of broken protein that have been deposited into the tissue, which then attracted water. Such a light tissue deposit. Do we really have no dark circles under our eyes? How do our lips look like? How does it look around our mouth? How many women have wrinkles up here, which is simply a sign of hormone problems and usually has to do with poisoning? How red is our chin? This is a sign of a toxin burden deep in the body. These are things that you can take into account. Apart from how my hair grows, how my fingernails grow, am I exhausted? Do I notice that my body can regulate? Do I have an itch or muscle ache every time I've done a lot of exercise? Or is my body able to adapt to it? If I don't get anything to eat, or I'm hungry, and then the feeling of hunger goes away shortly afterwards, because I can't eat anything right now. These are also signs that the body can regulate, that it has certain buffer capacities and reserves. So with women, the menstruation cycle is regular, and it is not absolutely annoying to have your days, but rather okay, I'm bleeding a little and that's it. How many tampons, how many bandages do you use? Is the blood light, or is it brown, greasy, dark? Do clots come out of it? Then I'm usually poisoned and the body tries to take it as an extra way to detoxify. So there are a lot of criteria by which you can determine this.
You briefly indicated earlier how often you should take a detoxification into account.
So basically, you have to say that a good detoxification is 6 months to 2 years. And then I did the foundation, cleaned out the body. ###, but I would say I see fewer and fewer people who are properly detoxified after 6 months. I have patients who are symptom-free beforehand and who become symptom-free at the earliest. They are not rarely the least inconsistent in detoxifying thoroughly. If you imagine health as a barrel, with symptoms it just ran over, and then I emptied it a little under the upper end. And I don't have any symptoms anymore, but sometimes not much is missing. And then it runs again. Then I see them again after 2 years. If they stay with me a little longer, then maybe we'll see each other again in 10 years. Or they just come to detoxify regularly. But many also learn. Many become something like their own doctor and maintain a certain baseline. Or they already notice a small symptom. No, then I took it back. And keep themselves stable for a long time, because they learn more and more about themselves and their body. And the better you treat the body, the more it helps itself. The clearer you understand the signals of the body. No, that's not tasty at all. And what used to be so delicious, where you sometimes say, oh, these are the little sins or maybe the miscegenization in the belly. Oh, that looks delicious, that piece of cake there. Then it can also be that you get there at some point. No, it's not tasty at all. I can already imagine how I feel after I've eaten it. Then you think, oh, the pineapple or the watermelon. But it looks much better. You can get there too.
We have already talked about nutrition, but we also had, at least in the previous conversation, the topic that we no longer get all the substances we need. That means I would also have to think about, if I want to get healthy or old, that I take the micronutrients, that I take care of the balance.
You need a certain baseline. Or some people constantly need this baseline. If I say that, then that's actually what I mean. That our soils are poor in certain minerals. Zinc and selenium are at the forefront. There are also analyses for vitamins. Broccoli in 1985 had 120 milligrams B6, and in 2014, 20 milligrams. And then there are vitamins. The scissors go even further apart, and with some less. In 1985, I don't think anyone cared whether it was organic broccoli or not. And then it is the case that B6 plays a major role in many people, or in the detoxification metabolism. That means, from the level where I was, I have less need for vegetables and a higher need. So the mismatch is just bigger than it was. And that's why it's necessary for most people to take a minimum, more or less consistently. And that's where the quality of the supplement also plays an enormous role. Not to take anything. And on the small print. Patients sign up for this and that. And then they have actually already looked it up very well and thought about it. No, there's this in it, please don't take it. And there's this in it, please don't take it. And there's this in it. The main active ingredient is good. Or that it's not in the form where it's easily available. And that's why it's a science in itself. And that it's getting more and more confusing. And as a layman to get through it. It's getting harder and harder. I would say.
Yes, but good. There are people like you for that.
Yes, exactly.
So nutrition, micronutrients, standard of living, stress reduction, environment.
That's too general. Stress reduction. That's how I deal with stress. We are already made to have stress. That's not the problem in itself. Only if it's too often too high and doesn't go down. And we're in the opposite pole. What do we mean? The sympathetic and the parasympathetic. These are two systems. We can have a lot of stress, and we can get it down again. But we still can't get up with the parasympathetic, with the relaxation nerve. And that's not just like that. Oh, when the stress goes down, I'm automatically relaxed. Actually, the story is a bit more complex. It's also dealing with stress. And what we need is, we have to. I know, have to. But if we want to live, then it's a must somewhere. Learn to get into relaxation actively. That doesn't necessarily happen on its own. Not the way we live, or how young people are shaped to live. Also with the leisure behavior. And so, but that's just important. That we also learn there. That we deal with stress. Deal with relaxation. With the opposite pole. And physically in the body there are two systems. And not one. They communicate with each other. There are actually two systems.
I sometimes have the impression that it is generally difficult for many people to sit down and do nothing at all.
Yes. Yes, that too. I am also someone who, if he doesn't have any stress, searches for stress or something. But it is also important that you get the opposite pole, that you get back in there. And I have phases of life. Then it gets more difficult. And then there are phases of life. Then it's easier again. It's just about this swing. And about the balance. I can say for myself, I found out, when I use infrared, I have tried different devices. With me most work super well. This is my sleeping pill. When I'm tense, I also notice, the more detoxified my body is, the more sensitive and finer I react. Then I also react to such impulses. Then I don't need the club. That brings me into relaxation. Of course. But it is so. We have phases of life. They are sometimes stressful. Or when the children are small. It's not about avoiding stress. Altogether.
And there is probably a stress that ultimately does well, or is productive.
Not necessarily. But not the word stress. We always need challenge, this learning. We want to grow with our tasks. That's what makes our brain happy and keeps young.
Wonderful. Exactly. You expressed it much better than I could have said it now. If one or the other is there, he says. I want to invest in my health, not in monetary terms, but I want to commit myself. Let's put it this way.
I'm incredibly happy about that. About such people. We also offer, for those who feel healthy, checkups, and this life idea, I will be healthy old, to support. Then, you are at the right place with me. We are in the Biomed Sonnenberg, in the beautiful Schwilbrunn. Our homepage is www.biomed-sonnenberg.com.
We could have said a little more. How to get healthy old. There are certainly many more possibilities, but our time is limited. And more. You can learn directly from you. If you turn to you. Many thanks. Thank you for your mission and your commitment for life and health. Also thank you very much that you joined us, and I hope we motivated you to get healthy and old, and that you are having the desire to get there. I look forward to you switching on again next time and wish you to remain mindful, alert, and loving towards your body. See you next time. Bye.